Hello and welcome to my living room. This is me taking a bit of an experimental stab into the camera pointed at my coffee table genre of videos. Admittedly, mostly as an excuse to test out the fact that I have gotten the fancy microphone that there it is, the fancy microphone that every vlogger type has. These do have good audio quality because they're made by DJI and they're surprisingly good quality products, although the plastic looks very bad to the naked eye. But importantly, I got this in the receiver for $20 on Amazon, so you know, what can you do? So today we are looking at the machine that everybody loves and that I absolutely hate. So what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be taking this beautiful 233 megahertz iBook G3 from 1999, and we are going to be installing the PowerPC native version of Windows NT version 4, which of course I have here in its nice complete in-box version. This is a project that sort of started a couple of years ago now and has somewhat stalled out a little bit because the developer has not been super interested in keeping up on it. They have been working on the PowerPC Windows NT port to the Nintendo Wii and Nintendo GameCube, which, to be fair, that's a lot more amusing. I would also be more interested in working on that. So a little bit more about this particular iBook. I'm using this today because I thought it would be the funniest machine to put the Windows NT workstation on for a few reasons, mainly that it is the absolute core opposite of a workstation PC, particularly one from 1996, because of course that's when this operating system came out, whereas the iBooks came out in 1999. The iBook is of course a favorite of the retro computer scene. I personally absolutely hate this machine. I love the design of it, but it is God's biggest pain in the ass for a litany of reasons. This one's in not great shape, as you can tell by the very large palm rest crack that has been super glued together, and that part, and the fact that the trackpad isn't sticking down, and the fact that I can, okay, well, normally that falls off, but I guess it's stuck down good now. Yeah, so these are sort of uber collectible among Apple people, and you understand why. It's a very iconic out-of-the-box design, but they're rather limited, and of course doing literally any work on them is one of the worst nightmares anybody will ever experience. I have of course done hard drive swaps, not on this machine, because of course it's like an hour and a half process. It involves taking the whole computer apart because the hard drive is sort of the central focal point that the rest of the computer is built around. It's bad. Also, the batteries pretty much never work, and you cannot get a working one unless you shell out for one of the hobbyist reselling services that have come into vogue recently, and then you'll be shoveling out $250. So that's not very good. I have a PowerBook Pismo that I actually much prefer for anything that I could do with this. Notably, I got this machine on eBay probably 13 years ago, and because it was 13 years ago, I paid about $30 for it. So, you know, good luck doing that now. I will at least give them that the charger for it is insanely cool, and I love that one. And I don't really have any qualms about that, although admittedly I do more use it on the PowerBook that I just mentioned. I believe this one also has a horribly rotted speaker, and I also believe that the optical drive doesn't eject unless I poke it with a stick. Now, of course, for the purpose of this, I have a stick. And press power. Yeah, speaker's very quiet on there. I'm going to imagine that I turned it down as much as I needed to in order to make it not sound horribly distorted, because of course it's gone rotten over the years. And nobody that I can find has actually done a replacement for it, which genuinely strikes me as weird, because, you know, there is a whole, I don't want to say market, but there's a whole community of documentation on replacing rotted speakers in iMacs of the same era, the slot-loading iMacs, and in fact I have done so. I'm just going to boot this up to make sure it still works because I have not tried it in quite a while. Is there an airport card in here? I don't actually know. I might have stolen it for something else. Alright, what asshole locked this? And is the answer me? There we go, in case you weren't aware. This is how you get to the airport card, which is in there. And you can't see because the keyboard's in the way. The airport card, the wireless card, and the memory is underneath that. I'm going to guess that I also have not bothered, or that I also stole the memory out of here for something else, because again, I have machines that I prefer over this one, like the PowerBook or the white iBook. But you can't deny that it's cool, if nothing else. Never mind, that's got fully upgraded memory. I have lied. This looks to be a absolutely bog standard installation of OS 9 from the model-specific Restore CD. Let's see if it still sounds horrible. Yeah, that's not great. Whatever. So, because I don't really care about this installation of OS 9, because why would I, we're going to install Windows NT there in its place entirely. So in order to do that, I need this CD. This is just a CDR with the required software on it. This is part of this is the driver package that the nice people on GitHub and in the community have uploaded. There's supposed to be a label up here that says PowerPC that I tried to print. So I have one of those disk printer things. I think LGR did a video on it once. The software does not particularly handle transparent images with a transparent background, so I've created this horrible thing instead. I'm going to poke the CD drive open, assuming the button doesn't work. No, the button does not work. I'm going to poke the CD drive open. And then it will get stuck. There we go. I'm going to put this in. And we're going to reboot. The chime is going to... Yeah, that's bad. Alright, right away, you probably can't see it there, but the little setup icon in the corner, which usually has the Finder icon, it has the Darwin icon if it's a version of Linux or something, has the little Windows icon. That's cute. And let's boot from that. And let's boot from that. Or let's not boot from that. Okay, that's not working, right? Let's kill it and hold down C. That is horrible, and I hate it. You are not doing what you were supposed to, my friend. I have burned another CD. I've also changed the camera angle slightly. Let's go ahead and see if this one will work. God, that sounds so awful. Alright, how about fuck you two then? Okay, alright, I don't fucking know. I have a stack of CDRs, different types, different ages, different qualities. We're gonna try the third type. This is a maciL CDR that notably already looks like something has been burned to it. Let's put that one aside and grab another one. And this disc also had something already burned to it. This is what I get for buying stacks of spindles of CDRs from the thrift store. And third CD is probably going to be nothing. Excellent. Okay, where do we go from here? Well, since this is a Mac 99 system, the documents do talk about booting from a USB drive, and I do have this very nice 256 megabyte drive here that should work. So let's try that instead. Alright, we've Balena etchered it. Let's take the drive and plug it in here, and I'm actually not going to be able to do it from the boot menu. I'm going to have to reboot into open firmware, which is going to be a pain to do from the vantage point that I'm sitting from. Okay. And what is that command? That command is probe-usb space multi-boot. Probably should have done that command with nothing in the CD drive. Thinking about it, that was not smart. Yeah, let's actually try that again. Okay, so I'm back, and with great news. That great news is that, of course, I am fucking stupid and did not read the manual. Of course, if I had done so, I would realize that there was a special version that I needed for the Mac 99 systems like this one. So I have grabbed that and I have burned it to another CD, and we are gonna hope to God that that one works. What we're actually gonna do first is reboot it, because right now it's trying to seek from a USB drive and it's not happy about it. Horrible, horrible screeching. Now, closing the drive might help. All right, it does see it, so that's good. Will it actually work? I don't know yet, because I gotta wait until it's done searching. It's done. Let's see. Let's cross every appendage that we have, including these two fingers here. I think it's actually doing something this time. Excellent. Okay. Where do we go from here? Run firmware setup. Repartition disk for NT installation. That is actually a 10 gigabyte hard drive, and I'm going to just use all of it. Well, as much as I can under Windows NT. Create Mac partition. And this appears as if hitting the wrong key has frozen it. Can't win them all? Question mark. To be fair, I did type the wrong thing anyways. Let's start over. Excellent. Firmware setup. Repartition disk. Alright, that disk is now partitioned. Let's restart. Okay, we're now back in, and what am I doing? Let me just see. Okay, the driver's RAM disk is loaded, so we're now going to open our nice boxed copy of Windows NT, and we will look through this in a minute. This was a nice gift from a friend of mine that I don't really know where to put it or what to do with it, but I do think it's cool, so it's going to stick around. If I empty that out, we will find the boot floppies that I do not need. These are for machines that couldn't boot from CD. The actual CD here, which is what we'll be putting in there. And there's a few other things in that box that we will go over in a minute. But for now, let's eject this disk with the big stick, or little stick rather. And then knock over the box. That's awesome. Stay. We got the nice shiny disc. It looks pretty much brand new. I'm guessing this wasn't used much. Belonged to a trade school in upstate New York, to my understanding, given that they put their labels all over everything. Run a program. Program to run. Fuck, I don't actually know. I know now. CD : /PPC / setup loader. And enter. Spin up the CD. Windows NT setup, there it is. Okay, excellent. Let's see. I believe, yes. Look at that, that's very funny. We can of course select from the Pismo G4, which I also have in the bedroom and should have used for this because it's a better machine. PowerBook G4. I have several of those, but they're all very nice, and I would never risk them with this sort of thing. iBook G3, which is what we're going to need. iBook G4, which it's never going to support because this doesn't have support for USB, which means that the keyboard and touchpad aren't going to work. iMac G3 and G4, that's actually the same deal. The Xserve is on here, which is extremely funny. Now let's just press iBook. Okay, and for the disk driver, other, enter. Oh, I had to pick them both. All right. And we have the Mac I/O IDE controller and the Power Mac HID and storage. Oh my god, there's so much bullshit. Other, enter. Open firmware frame buffer, that's fine. This doesn't really have proper graphics support, it just has the frame buffer support. Obviously, this isn't exactly the most optimal system to be running Windows NT on, so, you know, most of the drivers are missing, including the sound driver, which is the main reason I hadn't tried this before. I was waiting until it got that, but this project kind of stagnated in favor of the one for the Nintendo product, so I figured it was worth a try. All right, this much I recognize. Oh, fuck off. Page down. It is FN down like it is on all the Macs. And we have to change the keyboard to, well, that. And the pointing device, I presume to... No mouse or other pointing device. Okay, and let's go with the NTFS partition. Should not need formatted, so let's just... I'm going to skip that because I'm lazy. Setup has performed maintenance on your hard disk that requires a reboot to take effect. Go fuck yourself. PPC setup loader. We're back in the Windows NT setup, and I'm going to have to do all that shit all over again. God damn it. Alright, let's see if it works, if it goes now. That actually wasn't as much of a pain as I thought it was going to be. Okay. Now it's actually copying the files. While it's doing that, let's actually take a look at all this paperwork that was actually inside of the Windows NT box. I have looked at this before. I will note that my favorite thing that was inside of there is there is a single piece of paper. It's on the back of a pharmacy notepad. There's nothing written on the front, so they could have just written on the front, but you'll see that they have written down, or not only written down their administrative password, but also it was just password. So I will note, if you need to write down your password whenever it's just password, you have bigger problems going on. You also shouldn't do this, obviously, but of course I'm going to hang on to it, because why wouldn't I? We have the Microsoft registration card, which was not used, although we do have the nice Battleship United 747, so that was a pleasant surprise. What was this for? Win a free trip to Hawaii or Florida. What's the date I have to submit that by? June 30th, 1997. Cool. I'm not going to mail this off to see where it goes, because a billion other people have done that. This is a guide to service and support for back office products, which I don't think would have been in here originally. It tells me that this was probably used in a server environment, unless I'm clueless. You also have two actual, bound books. The hardware compatibility list is admittedly my favorite, because if you look inside, it is just a list of computer hardware that is supported by Windows NT, and the varying parts thereof. Of course, none of the iBook hardware is going to be in there, but there's all sorts of everything. That was graphics cards on the last page. This is, the SCSI cards. Oh, look, we actually have a list of PowerPC machines that this would have worked on. There are several brands I've never heard of in my life, like Austin and Bull and Firepower. But there's also ones that I have heard of. There's, of course, the IBMs. Those are relatively well-known, probably the most well-known application of Windows NT PowerPC. This is ready to reboot now, so we're going to do that. And start Windows NT Workstation 4. Let's see. Yep, that's the regular OS loader you get on standard x86 Windows NT. And there it is, build 1381. This is Service Pack 1, which actually means that I am going to need to get Service Pack updates for this. That's going to be fun. It does see all the memory in here, 576 megabytes of memory. This, of course, has a 512 stick and 64 megs on board. It should be, what should it be? 576, right? I was thinking 584, but no, that's 384 megabytes. Is what I was thinking of. RAM multiplication. Here we have our nice color graphics. And I'm going to need to type things in a moment. Wow, that tracking is very bad. That's like 1-to-1. That's not good. CD key. Well, I could type all ones like usual, but seeing as I do in fact have a legitimate Windows NT4 CD key here, let's type that in instead. That's 807-768-0914. And I was on the wrong box for that one. Name, iBook. PC. No admin password, fuck you. No emergency repair disk, because there isn't a floppy drive on here. We will install the games. We'll also install multimedia, despite the fact that there isn't any sound hardware this thing can see. Which is fine, given that the sound hardware sounds as horrible as it does. Do not connect this computer. This doesn't have Ethernet support, does it? I don't think so. Well, whatever, we'll just leave it. Okay, I didn't think so. Let's do not connect this computer to a network at this time. Alright, while that's finishing that, yeah, we have the IBMs, including the legendary ThinkPad Power series, machines that I have always wanted for my personal collection. A bunch of these Motorola Power Stack systems, which are kind of stupid little things that are extremely rare. Zenith Data Systems ones. There's also PowerPC multiprocessor. There are 3 manufacturers here. 2 of those are the same manufacturers I said I didn't recognize on the last list, and the other one is Canon, weirdly. Now, anybody who knows Canon knows that prior to the 2000s, they did a little bit more than just cameras. They also did imaging hardware and computers as well before that. By imaging hardware, I should clarify, I mean like scanners and printers. Jesus Christ, that came out stupid. There's also sections for, let's see, wow, we have MIPS RISC, we have digital, we have alpha. Beautiful. Go ahead and set the time zone correctly. This was not the last time Windows was distributed with, oh, come on. This was not the last time Windows was distributed as a multi-processor variant, in multiple processor variants. Of course, this one, well, I'm trying to think. It might have been the last time it was distributed in more than 2, unless you count x86 and AMD 64 as 2 separate ones, but then that would be weird. NT famously supported x86, but of course nobody was really sure the direction the PC market was going to take at the time because there were a lot of new things going on. So it supported MIPS RISC, it supported Alpha, it supported PowerPC, whenever PowerPC was sort of the big open standard. But ultimately, of course, none of that ended up mattering. Windows 2000 was only... Windows 2000, to my understanding, it was definitely issued for x86. I think it was also issued for Alpha, or at least it was almost issued for Alpha until like Beta 3. I actually cannot remember off the top of my head. Windows XP was, of course, then distributed on Itanium. And this is done, so I can take this out now. But then, of course, the transition to AMD 64 sort of became formalized across the industry, so then Windows was really only stuck in 32-bit x86, 64-bit x86, or x64, depending on, of course, what your computer hardware was, and then eventually just x64. We've only now really gotten back to ARM in the past couple of years. Also, this has a 30-second timeout. That's ridiculous. What are you talking about? I have not opened the Start Here guide yet. I'm guessing this is going to mostly be how to use Windows. Yep. Oh, it's how to use... Okay, so this is a little bit more advanced than how to use Windows. I should have guessed that because it's Windows NT. But, you know, Windows NT is always sort of a strange beast in that it's like Windows 95, but without any of the things, without any of the actual fancy new system-level features of Windows 95. It doesn't have support. It doesn't have plug-and-play device support. It doesn't have USB support. Windows 95 didn't initially either, but they didn't even do an update patch for Windows NT like they did for 95. It was basically just the same version of Windows NT from a couple of years prior that they glued Windows Explorer onto. Okay, so press Ctrl-Alt-Delete to log on. That is the first time I think I've ever seen that message on a Mac. I assume it's the standard key combo and there's nothing stupid going on. Yes, okay. And there we go, okay. And we have welcome to Windows NT, and for some reason it thinks the display resolution is invalid. I'm going to go set the wallpaper. I'm going to call that thumbnail bait, if nothing else. Beautiful. So, most people, whenever they do this, they go and they open Paint and Pinball and they dick around. And I'm also going to do that, but first, what I would actually like to do is I would like to see about getting the Service Pack update for this, because this only has Service Pack 1, and I know, I can't remember, I think NT4 was updated on PowerPC. I know it was updated at least to Service Pack 4, but I think it went all the way up to the last Service Pack 6. Let me go find out and go see if I can track down a disk image. Okay, so good news and bad news. Good news, I did get the right Service Pack ISO, the last Service Pack released for the PowerPC version of Windows NT. And the other good news is that I got about halfway through a game of solitaire in the process. The bad news, that actually was only SP2. I don't know what I was thinking of that went up to SP4, but this is still only SP1, so I do have the SP2 disc, the original OEM one from Microsoft, burned here. And the other bad news is that, of course, I've reached an impasse at my game of solitaire. So, admittedly, that does make it a good time to install a big update. And, ooh. We got the fancy Internet Explorer display, Windows NT Service Pack. We can also install, We can also install Internet Explorer 3 off of this CD, which we will do just because it sounds fun. While that's going, let's poke around a bit. Because, of course, since this is Windows NT, we of course have better multitasking and protected memory than Mac OS 9, so that's awesome. And indeed we have there, Microsoft Windows NT, computer, Power Macintosh, Mac 99. And 589,824 kilobytes of RAM. Which is weird because that's actually more memory than we have installed in the system, but never mind. This is PowerPC Windows NT. Hell yeah. Oh, okay, that was actually updating. I thought it was just copying things over. See, it's a good thing that we don't have audio drivers because you don't have to hear that horrible nightmare. And Service Pack 2, excellent. We're mostly good to go now. I said I was going to install Internet Explorer, but I'm going to be honest, I lied. We don't need it, and I don't really care that much. And I do want to play pinball. Even with no sound, it'll still be pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. Boy, it really doesn't like the way I have the graphics driver configured, and that's the only way I can have the graphics driver configured. I'm not actually sure if... Uh-oh. Great news, everybody. I think I've broken it. Phenomenal. Let's reboot. Just wanted to make sure you had to hear it. We're rebooting. I'm going to guess that switching display modes was what did me in there, so let's not do that again. Okay, now we're in here and good to go. And let's go immediately into what we promised. I will say, bold move of me to talk about not changing the display modes and then immediately going full screen for this, thus changing the display mode. But it hasn't frozen, so. Excellent, I fucked that up immediately. Boy, having the shit beaten out of me over here, my god. Alright, go fuck yourself. So, there we have it. Windows NT, the native PowerPC version, running on one of the most iconic Apple laptops that I personally hate, which is why I'm subjecting it to this. Great work, everybody. I don't really have a good way to do an outro to these videos, but if you wanted to subscribe, because maybe I will actually do something serious in the near future, who knows, I would greatly appreciate that. But for now, that's all that I have. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna see if shutting this down actually works, because honestly, so few things have worked so far that I'm actually kind of curious. Ah, right, I forgot. Yes. NT4 doesn't have ACBI. If I press restart, does it just turn it off, like the repo sort of hinted? Nobody knows what's fucking true anymore. Shut up. Die. Go away. Goodbye.